Hey, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well today. We actually have some breaking news to go over today that involves the mob. So, federal prosecutors have unsealed not one, but two major indictments that expose a nationwide gambling network. One of the files targets professional NBA insiders accused of feeding betting information and fixing outcomes. The other, it names members and associates of four of the five New York mob families. We have people from the Bonannos, Genovese, Gambino, and Lucchese families who, according to prosecutors, provide the money, muscle, and technology that kept these games running. And for the first time in decades, law enforcement says that the old world of organized crime and the new world of digital betting collided head on. The FBI describes it as a modern day commission case, only this time the action wasn't in smoky back rooms. It was online, encrypted, and global. In today's show, we'll unpack both sides of the story, how the NBA insiders allegedly gamed the system and how the mob supposedly ran the back end operation. And also, what does this mean for the future of sports gambling and organized crime in America? And I do have to make this disclaimer. Everyone named in these indictments is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. So the first case is called the NBA insider betting and money laundering indictment. And you have six defendants charged, including Terry Rozier, who's an active NBA player, Damon Jones, a former player and coach, Eric Ernest, who was one of the alleged brokers. You got a guy named Vez Fairley, which was they call him a pick seller. You had a better runner named Sugar Hennon, and then an associate named De Niro Laster. And the theory is that prosecutors alleged that there was this fraudulent wagering scheme. Insiders, or those with insider access, shared non-public information such as injuries, planned early exits of players, and lineup decisions to place their direct wagers, often using straw bettors and then laundering the proceeds through crypto, peer-to-peer application, cash, and wires. The more interesting case, at least to those that are interested in the mob, is case two. And this is a mob-linked poker and gambling indictment. It involves 31 defendants, including 13 alleged members of organized crime. And so prosecutors allege that between 2019 and 2025, that using technology, the mob had a rigged poker scheme operating out of Manhattan private games. They were executed in Washington Place and on Lexington Avenue. You had games in the Hamptons, also games outside of New York and Las Vegas and Miami. And it's alleged that people that betted lost over $7 million. And although the games looked like they were legitimate, there were shufflers and other hidden devices which were alleged modified to read the deck and feed live intelligence to what they call a team quarterback who signaled partners at the table. And as far as the mob's involvement, four of the five families are involved, allegedly: Bonanno, Genovese, Gambino, and Lucchese. Allegations include on-record protection, debt collection, and profit participation from both rigged and what we would call square illegal games. Some defendants are described in the court documents as members, capos, soldiers, or associates. And then the money movement allegedly ran through shell companies, intermediaries, cryptocurrency, and a money laundering facilitator. And then what's kind of interesting in this is that you had celebrity face cards. So prosecutors said that recognizable ex-NBA figures, including Chauncey Billups and Damon Jones, were used to attract wealthy marks to these private games, and they would receive a share of the proceeds. Again, that's the allegations. Additional counts beyond gambling, alongside the wire fraud, conspiracy, and illegal gambling business, there are also some Hobbs Act extortion and robbery counts tied to debt collection and a alleged gunpoint theft of a preferred model of Ridge Shuffler, plus money laundering conspiracy. And so, two separate cases, but they actually fit together. So the NBA indictment focuses on insider information, fraudulent bets, and money laundering, while the Cosa Nostra indictment focuses on the physical games, rigged poker games, mob protected square games, and all of the criminal infrastructure behind them. Who are these organized crime figures that are involved in this case? So we're going to go through those. I'm going to tell you a little bit about them. I mean, since this is public information, I don't feel like that we can't talk about it, but at the same time, everything's alleged. These are alleged members of organized crime, and we'll kind of keep it at that. So the first guy is Ernie Aiello, and he's identified in the documents, the court rulings, as a member of the Bonanno crime family and a key defendant in a technology rigged underground poker scheme that ran in Manhattan. He also has allegedly cheated victims out of millions of dollars while on record with the Bonanno family, and also he would enforce debts. We know that back in 2013, he was in a case that involved a enterprise corruption case that the Manhattan DA tried. And this was when he was part of the Nicky Santora crew. That case actually ended in a mistrial. He didn't get convicted on that. And what we know is that he's a pretty big high roller with the Bonannos. We know from even those documents back then that he was a Bonanno captain, and we know he's a nephew of Mikey Nose Mancuso, and also it's alleged that he could be the acting underboss of the Bonannos. We got a guy named Matty the Wrestler Dadino. He was charged the count 2, which was the Washington Place illegal gambling business. He's identified as a member of the Genovese crime family. We know he is a wrestler, and that's about all we can confirm about him. But he was a Genovese earner tied to the Washington Place game. Then you have a Gambino named Lee Fama. He was charged in count 2 again, identified as a member of the Gambino family and one of the people receiving proceeds for the Gambino family and keeping the game on record. Also, we've got, and this is a name people might know, Angelo Ruggiero Jr. So he's charged in count 2. He's a member of the Gambino family, allegedly. And his father, remember, was the late Gambino captain, Angelo Ruggiero, quack, quack. Angelo Jr. had earlier issues with the law. Back in 1998, he got convicted on grand larceny and had a 1 to 3 year sentence. And he was more of what they're saying is that he was allegedly a Gambino collector or Gambino conduit there at Washington Place. Next guy's a big guy. You got Joseph Lonnie, Joe Brooklyn. He's been charged in count 2, the Washington Place game. He's been explicitly called out as a Gambino member and captain, which we know. And this guy's had a lot of recent history of getting in trouble. Back in November 2023, the Eastern District of New York put a racketeering case against him. He was charged alongside other Gambino figures in racketeering that was tied to construction, carding, and extortion. And then just this year, he got charged for a garbage industry extortion case in Manhattan. And so he's profiled as a New York, New Jersey Gambino capo regime, acting more in the labor and carding rackets. And now he's alleged to have skimmed poker room proceeds and helped keep the Washington Place game on record. We've got a Gambino associate. They call him a game organizer. His name's John Gallo. And so he's the guy that organized the Washington Place game. And he's an associate, allegedly. And he's one of the recipients of proceeds on the Gambino family's behalf. And he's charged across all the fraud and gambling counts. You also got a guy named Thomas Gilardo, and he's named as an organizer and player on the other game in Manhattan, which was on Lexington Avenue. The indictment spells out that he was a Bonanno associate and later a Genovese associate, and that he received proceeds for the Bonanno family, and they're charging him with a Hobbs Act extortion conspiracy. And then we've got the guy Nicholas Minucci, a Gambino associate, and he's someone that some people might know from his history. They place him as part of that Washington Place crew. He's a Gambino associate on the cheating teams. Also alleges he participated in a gunpoint robbery to seize a specific rig shuffler model in September 2023. And what he's probably most well known for is back in 2005, he was involved in a Howard Beach hate crime assault robbery where he apparently used a bat to assault a person, and he was charged with hate crimes. And he got convicted in 2006 and was sentenced to 15 to 20 years. He appealed his I guess he tried to appeal his conviction. That was denied, and he got released sometime, I believe, around 2019. And then we've got a Lucchese associate, Seth Trustman, and they said that he's a Lexington Avenue organizer, a Lucchese associate charged in the extortion conspiracy on that side. And one of the victims that's spelled out is John Doe 6, lost a bunch of money in this, I think up to $6 million. And so this guy is charged with wire fraud and money laundering counts. But he does have some other history. Back in 2018, the New York Attorney General brought a state case against him. He was tied to an alleged Lucchese high stakes gambling and loan shark operation with poker rooms, again, near Lexington Avenue. And so the next person is let's see. I want to talk about there's other associates involved. We got this guy Flapper Poker, Amar Awade. He's a Gambino associate, and he's not even Italian, so that's kind of interesting. But he's apparently been an associate for a few years. And what they call him is the Washington Place's house man. So he was both someone that was involved in the logistics of the game and also of getting all of this cheating hardware, the shufflers and the cameras and all those devices to help cheat. So they got him in the gambling, the money laundering, and a robbery conspiracy count. And then you got a Bonanno member named Jay Ziliani. And he's labeled as a Bonanno member who collected proceeds for the family from the Lexington Avenue and Washington Place games. And he was also charged with extortion of one of the victims, John Doe 5. And he was also named in the Lexington Avenue illegal gambling business count 3. And then they're saying what else about him? That basically that's about it. Really, he's just cast as a Bonanno collector and enforcer at these two locations. And so that's pretty much everyone. So I guess I'll just kind of, because we talked through this. So for the Bonanno family, what we're showing is Ernie Aiello. We also have Thomas Juice Gilardo, which was a Bonanno, but later Genovese associate. Then you have this guy, Julius J. Ziliani, that's with the Bonannos. On the Gambino side, you had this guy, Lou Apicella. You had the guy, Flapper Poker, which is a weird name, Amar Awade. You had Lee Fama, he's a soldier, John Gallo, associate, Joe Lonnie, the captain, Nicholas Minucci, an associate, and then Angelo Ruggiero Jr., allegedly a member. And then on the Genovese side, Matty the wrestler Didino, and on the Lucchese side, Seth Trussman. So the business model they use, that's kind of interesting. So it was poker rooms. So these were private invitation only games that would run in loft and hotel suites in Manhattan, the Hamptons, and Las Vegas. The decks were allegedly read by modified shuffling devices with card data transmitted to offsite quarterbacks who would give signals to the bettors. Then you had the sportsbook wing of it. And this was referred to as the Lexington Avenue book, and it took wagers on NBA player prop bets and other sporting events. And they said it served as a hedge and a laundering vehicle for profits from the poker side. Then you had your traditional protection system. And so basically it's one of those things. If someone didn't pay, you know, people from the mob would collect the money. And so that's where they're getting the extortion and Hobbs Act robbery charges at. And then finally, you got the money flow. So the money itself would go through shell companies. They were putting it into cryptocurrency, digital payment apps. And the government alleges that each family received a percentage of the take from every major game. And the takeaway really on this, if prosecutors prove their theory, this case becomes the clearest modern example of organized crime adapting rather than disappearing. So what's next on all this? You got 2 indictments, dozens of defendants, and the FBI calling this one of the most complex gambling operations ever seen inside U.S. sports. Both cases, the NBA insider betting indictment and the Cosa Nostra gambling case, it's going to unfold in the Eastern District of New York. And ironically, that's the same courthouse where the commission case of the 80s took down the Mafia's national leadership. So each set of defendants is going to appear for arraignments. They're going to enter their pleas, which I'm going to assume not guilty. And then they're going to begin this slow process of discovery. And during this time, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear about one or more of these guys becoming a rat. You know, it's always going to happen. We got too many people involved in this thing. Prosecutors already hinted at the possibility of a future RICO enhancement, and that would make things really interesting. That, you know, this is going to mean more stiffer penalties. You'll potentially get 20 years for every count for those found guilty of conspiracy. And I think that they're keeping that on the table because that would be a way to help bring in informants that would testify against the others. What we're going to see is that the government's going to lean heavily on the digital evidence. We got all these text messages. We've got payment app trails. We got encrypted chat logs. We got data from the servers themselves. And they're going to, I guarantee you, rely on cooperating witnesses, you know, insiders who can explain how the flow of information or how the money crossed from the sports world into the underworld. We have already heard from the NBA on this. The NBA moved quickly. Their integrity and security office is going to suspend or ban anyone directly implicated. Insiders say the league is going to hire outside investigators, and it's going to be the same firm that handled the Jonte Porter probe, which happened last year. They're going to review betting irregularities and communication records league-wide. The NBA's main goal now is containment. They want to reassure their sponsors. They want to keep the betting market stable and show that the sport's integrity can be protected, even in an era of legalized wagering. But what about the mob? What's the mob's next move? Well, historically, when a joint indictment hits this many families at once, fallout's massive. You know, some defendants will fight, others, particularly the lower level associates, I'm sure is going to consider cooperating. And even if one flips, it can open up additional RICO cases tracing money into offshore sports books or cryptocurrency exchanges linked to other family crews. For the traditional mob, the case signals a turning point. The old neighborhood rackets are gone, and gambling's gone global. The profits are digital, but the players are still flesh and blood. And as this indictment shows, the temptation for easy money never disappears. For me, just looking at it from the big picture, these two indictments reveal to me a merging of worlds. You got the professional sports world, online betting, and organized crime. They're all colliding in real time. For law enforcement, it's proof that even in 2025, that Cosa Nostra remains adaptive. And then for professional sports, to me, it's a warning. Insider information is as valuable as any weapon, but once it leaks, it becomes currency on the street. If these allegations hold up, they'll become the largest gambling related prosecution touching professional sports in American history. If it doesn't, it still exposes a gray zone where legal betting meets the shadows, a zone that organized crime has been circling since Prohibition. Either way, the lesson's clear. Cosa Nostra hadn't vanished. It's evolved, and the pressure's on the leagues, the regulators, and the athletes to stay clean. And the stakes never been higher. That's all I wanted to talk about today. Drop your thoughts below. I look forward to your comments. Please hit the like button. Also subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I'm James Proctor. Take care, stay safe, and God bless you always.